Have fun there, Greg.
Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate it. I don't know if that's straight or even up right side up. Let's see. Whatever. Good morning. You guys are hanging back here. I'm Greg. Isaiah, you were at our last class, weren't you?
D'Angelo.
That's right, D'Angelo. Isaiah D'Angelo.
Morning, I'm Bill.
Bill, nice to meet you. You want to hear it twice, huh? I'm gonna. Got a commission that should have been made. Good morning. I'm Greg. What's your name? Chris, good to meet you. I should have gotten a commission yesterday. That's what I'm looking for. I did last Friday. So I want to know where my money is. Show me the money. And they didn't even show it on the screen of sales last week. So I don't know what's going on. No, it's not there. I'll be paying a visit upstairs after this is over. After all, that's the best day. All right, guys, everybody move up one row, please. Let's all get closer so that we're together on this thing. Thank you. I apologize for one thing. I have a box, which thank heaven I pulled this out of, but I have the sign-in sheets and the brochures that I have done on the $1 million plus properties. And I walked away and left it sitting by my car in the garage. But you saw them last time. I can describe it. So we'll do that. Well, welcome. This is the open house class in the Ignite series. How many of you how far along are you in Ignite? Chris?
8, I think.
Are you?
8 classes.
Good. Okay. Bill?
20.
Yeah. Second time through? All right. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good. D'Angelo, how about you?
Second, kind of, but I started at your class, my first one.
Did you? Okay. Isaiah? Okay. Good. I will lightly touch maybe on some of the other classes, but not much. This is really specifically today for open houses. I don't use those slides. So let's just do this. So by the end of today, you should be able to do 3 things. 1, describe the benefits of holding an open house. 2, identify the best practices for holding an open house. In other words, how do you do it? And number 3, be prepared to hold an open house. Now, at our last class where D'Angelo attended, there was one of the guys had found somewhere online a list of to-dos to prepare for an open house. And the thing was like 3 pages long. Now, you don't need to do all that stuff. What I'll give you, what we say are the best practices based on my own experience. And so I want to divide it kind of into 3 sections. How do you prepare for an open house? How do you hold an open house? And how do you follow up to an open house? And I want to introduce Sheila Trujillo today. A big part of your open house success is to have a lending partner there with you, if at all possible. Now, everybody's not as good as Sheila. The benefit that I've found over the years working with Sheila is that she is so good on follow-up to the people that she's talked to about mortgages that are really not quite ready, or they have to get some credit things taken care of, or whatever the case, get their down payment increased, or whatever the case may be. And Sheila is so good at following up. She's actually called me a couple times and say, okay, we're ready to go with so-and-so. And I go, who? I don't even remember them, but she stayed on top of it. The other advantage to having a lender there is that it's another person that people can talk to where they don't feel threatened. You know, here I am, the realtor. Am I going to jam something down their throats? Which I don't. But nevertheless, there's someone else that they can talk to in a very open and non-threatening way. So I highly recommend that you find a team member to go with you. And I don't know of any lender that isn't willing to do it. I mean, they're there for the same reasons we are, to pick up new business, as well as, you know, the second reason, first reason is sell the house, but they are integral to your success in an open house. So when you go over to Ucore, I prefer, and I left this home in my box, the one of these that has the two little cutouts here, the plastic that you can just drop your business cards into and have them available there. So I invite Sheila to jump in at any point that she would like to. As we're going through this, she and I are a good team. We've worked together very carefully in the past, closely in the past. There is one slide I'd like to show you. Nothing else about your business will have as big an impact on it as the number of leads you have. Did any of you attend the business planning meeting yesterday for 2025? Okay, so, you know, the math is very simple. The more leads you have, the more deals you close. And so how do you get leads? Well, the number one reason that we're holding this open house is to help you gain leads. Now, in my personal business, the majority of my leads come from my SOI, which is you over time develop your SOI. That's where they should come from. But I can tell you my very strong number two for me is open houses, where I have developed the leads and the sales that I've had over the years is through open houses. In fact, if you look at the reasons, MREA or anywhere else, or you look at the lead generation sources, number two is open houses. Number one is SOI. Number two is open houses. They're indispensable. In fact, the NAR statistics show that 51% of the people who buy a house have gone through an open house. Now, we like to think everybody does it online, but that's true. People are online all the time. I get my clients will call me, say, hey, I just saw this on Zillow, or I saw it on Redfin or whatever, or on utahrealestate.com. So they find things. I'm working on a deal right now where my client called me and said, hey, I saw this house. Can we, let's go after it. Actually, it's the one that just closed. I'm waiting on the commission. You know, they called me and they had found it online. And so even though another realtor's name is associated with it, they still call me because I'm the guy they consider to be their real estate agent. But the number two source is open houses. Now, why? What's the purpose of an open house? Bill.
Because the house that is listed, right on the backside of that, the secondary benefit is meeting all the people and getting the contacts of the people who are out looking, effectively.
Exactly.
So people are out actively
Yeah,
looking at homes.
exactly.
They're showing some-
You need to remember that if this is your listing or if you are showing the house for someone else's listing, that your number one purpose is to represent the seller and to sell that home. And so you need to make sure that everything that you are, please come on up if you want to, everything that you are doing is to represent the home. However, there's the secondary benefit, but really, again, you're representing a home, but the other benefit, as Bill said, is that you are going to acquire leads. You're going to acquire both buyer and seller leads when you do this. Now, what's the number one source of leads at an open house that you will gain? Unrepresented buyers. That's important. You know the difference. If someone comes in, well, if they come in with their agent, obviously you're going to back off. But you always ask, are you working with an agent? And if they say yes, then that's the end of the conversation. If they ask you a question about the house, going back to putting your hat on representing the house, of course you answer that. But you do not in any way attempt to gain them as a client. That's part of our code of ethics, and it's really, really important. And so just, keep that in mind, that you're looking for unrepresented buyers or you're looking for unrepresented sellers. Someone who's there they appreciate the job you've done, and so they want to have you represent them. So keep that in mind, that if they say I am represented, and some people will say that even though they're not, but that means that they probably aren't interested at that point in time. Go ahead.
So, you're doing an open house, somebody comes in, they says, yes, I'm working with a buyer, or I'm working with an agent.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you want, is there any need for you to want to get agents' information, like maybe get feedback on the house that's being listed or anything like that, just to kind of stay in touch with them?
Yeah. If they are really interested, and you know that they are, and they say they're going to come back with their agent or contact their agent, then I will often say, yeah, who are you working with? I may know them, may be helpful to, give them information or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, I will do that, and I will, get the agent in the brokerage, and I will as part, you're a little bit ahead of us because this is part 3 on following up on your leads. But part of following up on your leads would be to contact that agent, because you're still selling the house. You're still on the sales side, and anything you can help on the buy side, that's what you do. But yeah, that's in part 3. Okay, we'll do that. What are some limiting beliefs about open houses? Remember, you in the previous classes you've talked about limiting beliefs. What are some of the limiting beliefs that you can think of about open houses? Number 1, I don't have a house to hold open. And so if I don't have a house to hold open, then I guess I can't do open houses. That's not true. I have, from time to time, I always like to be at my own open houses, but from time to time I'm not able to be, or other agents are not able to be. So you just check, go on the KW, go on command and see if other agents are asking for someone to handle their open house. And it doesn't have to be a KW open house. You can represent an open house from any other brokerage or agent. Okay, you just have to have the permission of that agent, but it does not have to be a KW open house. So that opens. So if you go on, what's that website? I check it all the time. Utah Valley. Oh shoot, what is it? Utah Valley Realtors. Anyway, it's I'll get that for you. But just go on that and check and see if anybody's asking for somebody to hold an open house. And I can pretty much guarantee you that you'll be able to find something on almost any given weekend.
Like some of the homes that were listed that week,
Yeah,
and some agents don't even just like to do them, period, and so they don't do them for their clients. And so you can even call the agents and just say, just wondering if you're, needing someone to hold an open house, I'd be happy to help or whatever, so.
okay. So that's not a limiting belief. There's always open houses available. What's another one?
So expensive, and I have no money right now, so I can't go do an open house because I don't have any signs.
Is that true? Working, if you haven't, okay, that sign's about, and it's beat up, which means I've used it a lot, which is good news. But between this and the frame, that's about $45, okay, for every sign that you have. If you need 10 signs, $450, maybe you don't have that to spend right now. One, there are open house signs here in our market center, that are quite often available. You just have to check with Amanda upstairs and ask her if they're available. But the other one is if you're holding an open house for someone else, then you're using their signs. Okay, so signs are available. Yes, yeah,
Too, don't they?
yeah.
They're just.
They just say open house. Yeah, I like to have my pretty face there on these, but you don't have to.
That's a good looking picture.
Yeah.
Good looking picture.
Oh, thank you. Okay. That was a couple of years ago. I probably need to update it. But anyway, do I? Okay, that's good news. Okay. I may not know the answers to questions that people have as they come through the house. Okay, this is part of preparing for the open house. So I'll come back to that in just a minute. And then open houses don't work. I'm here to tell you they do. They do. I've gotten a substantial amount of my, number two for me has just been open houses. I don't do a lot on social media. I really don't. I don't do a neighborhood farming. I just, my business has grown based on SOI and open houses. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't do all those things. I'm just telling you either I'm technology challenged or I'm lazy. So I just do the things that have really worked for me the best. And that's these. Okay.
Of that too is they don't always work. Well, you don't always get a great lead for every single open house, but anyway, you're gonna go.
That's really true. My former partner Colleen talks about her very first open house, and it was a trailer, a mobile home, and it was empty. And so I don't know why she never took a chair, but she tells the story. She sat on the floor for, 6 or 7 weeks, kind of a thing, holding on while nobody came. Finally, somebody came and they bought it, and that person led her to another, and she was off and running. But yes, good point. Although I got to say, I'd have to go back and look at my numbers, but I would say that at least 75% of the open houses I've held, I've gotten a new business out of. So yeah, it's really worth it. Yeah. For me personally, I very rarely have had an open house where I haven't gotten a new contact that has turned into a sale.
Also, too, Greg is very experienced, right? And he eludes a lot of confidence. And so depending on your demeanor, if you're gonna elude a lot of confidence and that you know what you're doing, or you can show people that you're a brand new agent and you don't know what you're doing. It's just a matter of your mindsets. And, so Greg, you may not pick up some for a while until you feel more confident doing it if you don't at first feel confident, I would say.
Thank you. Now, the best way to feel confident is to prepare ahead of time. So let's talk about this. How do we prepare for an open house? What are the steps that you're going to take? Well, the first thing you're going to do is obviously you have a seller. And even though this is part of your CMA class, you have to set the right price. In this market, especially if you have the home overpriced, it's going to sit and you're not going to get the same traffic you would if the home is slightly below market and you let it get bid up. I just went through that on a house where client wanted to, and this is, right in the median, client wanted to set the price at 520. And I said, no, let's go at 5. Let me remember now. That's just recently 5. I said, let's go at 510. Okay. We ended up selling it for 531. If we'd come in at 520 or 30, I don't think we would have ever gotten there. Okay. So just be so price conscious about that. And part of that is knowing what the competition is in the neighborhood where you're selling. Grab your phones and let me show you a slick little app you can use. Your Utah real estate button. Everybody get there. So one of the very first things I do when I'm going to do a CMA, and I do when I'm pulling up to my open house to double check it, is hit the more button, and you see nearby for sale. hit the nearby for sale button. Everybody see this? Is that, oh, UtahRealEstate.com. So you wouldn't have it. Okay. You don't have access to this until you have your license. Okay, but everybody, this,
They just put it up. It's on.
okay, well, here's how it works. I mean, it's so slick. Here's where we are, right here, and we can just look around. Okay, so if I have a home listed for $800,000, well, none of them are that in this area. If I have them listed for $450,000 in this area, okay, then I can look at this and see what my competition is going to be when I have the open house, number one. And number two, it helps me in pricing the home and showing my client the realities of the marketplace. Again, working with sellers, it's always a reality check. All sellers think their home is worth more than it is. I promise you. Okay, true?
Yeah.
So part of the reality check is to have this kind of information.
I think it's worth that they want.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or we've lived here for 30 years and we have so many wonderful memories. We're sure somebody wants to pay for that, Well, the fact that you had Thanksgiving dinners here for 30 years doesn't really add any value to the house.
Make sure appliances old and well.
That's right. That's right. You're cooking off a wood burning stove here. Anyway. Okay. So preparation for the open house. Number one, we're going to make sure that our price is set. Now, how do you go into that with confidence? Open houses, one of the benefits of open houses is they don't cost a lot to hold, but they do take time. And you have to invest your time ahead of time to have a successful open house. So what are we going to do? You're going to get some information about the neighborhood. You're going to look at it. You're going to look at the schools. Go to, reportschools.utah.gov. Check out these kind of things to see what the area is all about, so that you have, if somebody asks you about the schools, when they come to the open house, you can respond to that. If somebody asks you about the empty lot next door, and I have a story on that, ask them about that. Colleen and I sold a home in Draper, where it was a beautiful home, but when you walked in or opened the door walking out, there's a big empty field full of weeds and some junky equipment sitting across from the home. And so it really took away from the beauty of the home, because you couldn't help but notice a very unkempt property next door. Okay, so I went to the city and asked him about that lot. Turns out that 8 acres is going to be turned into a beautiful city park. And what's more, so I got that from the city, then I went to Parks and Rec and I wish I'd remember to bring that, got the plat and everything and what they were going to do. And what's more, they were holding hearings of the people in the neighborhood where here's 3 different plans for the park. Give us your input on what you'd like to see there. By the way, I drove by there the other day and that park is real. I mean, there are earth movers and there's everything going on there. Okay. And I knew that it was in the budget for their 2024 fiscal year. So I could say to people, yeah, that is going to be a fabulous park. Nobody's ever going to build across from you right there. Okay. And what's more, you get some input into it and it will be done in the very near future. So turning a negative into a positive. Okay, that's the kind of thing to prepare ahead of time for the open house. Now let's talk about staging. I stage almost all of the homes that I list. Now today there's a thing called virtual staging, where for $45 a room, your photographer will put furniture in it. Unfortunately, when they walk in the house, there's no furniture. Okay, yeah, okay, sorry, thanks. Okay, they'll do virtual staging for you, and on a $399,000 condo, maybe that's the way to go. But in most of the homes that I sell are closer to $1 million or over $1 million, and so I have those homes staged. This requires some real advanced planning. because stagers are busy. And you need to be able to, it's a process of two things. You have to set up a meeting with the stager and the sellers where they come and the discussion is held about what's going to be done. What furniture that, okay, let's assume for a moment that the people are still living in the house. What of their furniture are you going to keep and what are you going to, maybe you're just going to accessorize. It usually involves decluttering, and making the home, taking down the family pictures and maybe all the pictures of the Savior and everything, just because you want to make it something that people look at it as their home, not the home that the people who are living in it or own it are selling. Does that make sense? You need to depersonalize it is the word. So the declutter, depersonalize, get the home ready to be staged. And then if the home is empty, then you bring in, the stager brings in the total staging, or you pick specific rooms. You always stage the living room, the kitchen, the family room, and the master bedroom. Okay, but you may choose to stage all of the other rooms as well. So again, that's just ahead of time. That's all part of the planning. So you will have that meeting. Now, one of the nice things about having that meeting when I bring Lene, who I use, in, is that I can back up and I don't have to offend my client. She does. In other words, she's the expert. I'm not. She can come in and say, you know what? I know you love that China hutch, but we either have to take everything out and put some accessories in it or move it to the garage or whatever the case may be. Your stager can do that. And that's really helpful to you that you don't get in the middle of that. So, okay, so you got to plan ahead for, usually when I'm staging a home, when I've been working with the seller, it's a good, maybe even 2 to 3 weeks before that home gets staged. So that's part of your advanced planning as well. Yes.
Questions about staging? Few questions, actually. One, you typically work with staging companies. Do they normally kind of work with their pricing for real estate agents?
Well, that's who they work for, is real estate agents. So normally what you do is you either pay for the first 30 or 60 days, depending on the stage you're working with, and then there's a monthly fee after that. If hopefully you don't need it that long, but yeah, so
Always have that deep pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
When you're first starting out. And so there's, there's hacks that you can do to make the house look nice. Sometimes the client will pay for hacks like this, littler things you can do. But, sometimes the clients will be willing to pay for it, and you could talk them into that and just say, staging, if someone comes to your house, an unstaged house, I don't know what the stat is, it's like crazy. Like an unstaged house, someone stays in 10 minutes, and a staged house, someone stays in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's huge stat.
and a staged home.
I could see myself living in,
Yeah.
my chairs like that. They would
Yeah.
be great there.
Walk into a model home versus walk into an empty house. What's the feeling you get,
Right.
right? And so that's and not everybody stages, and
Yeah.
I walked into houses that agents were doing for other agents, and it was disgusting. The house wasn't even clean. It was
Yeah.
it's like, how do you expect to sell this thing? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
Well, now,
Yeah.
with that, if you were going to, let's say you were saying, okay, I'm on a budget here, and
Yeah.
I really want to help, and I would assume that the staging companies charge by room, I would think.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay, so
correct.
which rooms do you think are the most important? The living room, the bedroom, the master?
Master bedroom, kitchen. Kitchen needs to be cleaned and staged with little pots and yeah, that's accessorizing. Okay, let's back up on staging here.
family room or living room, whichever you want to do.
Yeah, with the great room, if there's a great room, with that whole idea. I turned down a listing earlier this year on a home in Orem because the home was filthy. They were, I don't want to say hoarders, but awfully close to it. And when I discussed with them what I thought would need to happen to get that home ready to sell, they weren't willing to do it. So I just said, you know what, in a very nice way, you know, I'm really not the agent you want to work with on this house. You know, you might want to find somebody else. You know, you don't want to get yourself in a position where, who's calling me? Hello, this is Greg. Yeah. Yes, Dave. Hey, you've got the information on the water shares? Okay. Hey, I'm teaching a class right now. Can I call you back? Yeah, text me on the information. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm sorry, I was expecting that call, so I apologize, but it's a multi-million-dollar deal. If I bring it together, it'll be the biggest deal I've ever done. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so the whole staging thing. If you don't have the money to stage, I would still recommend that you bring in somebody to accessorize. What's Jen's mother's name? Cindy Yates. Cindy Yates, who's an agent here, but also has a staging company. She really kind of specializes in accessorizing, and that always makes a difference. Now, Lee Stern, you guys know who Lee Stern is? She's probably the #1 agent in Keller Williams, Utah for decades. And whenever she conducts a class here, don't miss it. Lee has never paid a dime for staging. Her presentation is to the clients, okay, and now we need to stage the house and here's what it's going to cost. And the stager will send you the bill. And that's been her approach. I kind of, when I got into it, and here I felt, oh, geez, I'm making a, you know, 15 or 20 or $30,000 commission. I'll pay for the staging. But Lee's approach is absolutely not. My clients pay for the staging. So you kind of have to decide what your own philosophy about it is, or split it, or whatever the case may be, on the staging. I had this property in Benjamin I just closed on last month for $2 million. That's the longest listing I've ever had. I listed it in January and sold it in September or October. The reason is it's a hybrid property. It was a beautiful home, and I had the brochure. It's a beautiful home on 8.75 acres of land. So it's got to be somebody that wants a nice home and all that land. So I finally got the client. But as we came, after I had had that stage for 5 months, now this is $850 a month. It's starting to, So I sat down and had a talk with my clients, and they agreed that we would split that. Now, what actually happened is that Lene, my stager, realizing I'd had it on so long, she gave me 3 months free. So that was very nice of her. But if she had not, then my client would have been ponying up, you know, $425 a month of that. So you can always negotiate. And they appreciated, it's a beautiful home, and the staging was, the furniture, we moved almost with the exception of one piece of furniture, everything went to the basement, because the way they had it, the home is country contemporary, and they had it country, my aunt's, you know, attic, kind of the way it looked. And so it required, you know, a pretty expensive staging bill. I don't want to get hung up on staging. If you really just can't afford to do it, you don't want to, your client's not willing, or whatever the case may be, have your photographer do virtual staging, and just have it on your phone or your laptop and show it to people when they're going through the house. Okay. So there's lots of ways to skin the cat. The idea is, and I think the NAR statistic was, a home that's staged nicely sells 88% faster than a home that isn't. That's pretty remarkable. So is it worth it? Mm-hmm. I'd say so. Okay. You've also now got to line up your photographer. All right. Make sure that you do that. Get in with a good photographer. I have a guy that I, you know, in my back pocket, in the sense, part of my team, I use all the time. But the company, check with Hunter or Amanda even. I think they have their cards upstairs. There's a company that has made some presentations here that does your first photography for free on your first home. They'll do it for free for you. Okay. So check with them. The card's upstairs. You want 3 kinds of photography? You want the still photography, you want the drone photography, and you want the Matterport photography.
What?
Matterport, 3D photography. Somebody clicks on it, moves their mouse, and you walk through the house. Okay. So those are when you're working with a photographer, you want all three of those.
You don't have the money to do all three of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to apologize about it. Right, Greg?
Well, I have to apologize. I didn't bring my brochures, which shows drone photography so beautifully. But anyway,
Prepare for an open house?
No, this is, Greg's going into the.
Oh, going into, if
Yeah,
this is.
I'm assuming now that you are the listing agent. Yeah,
Got
yeah, you're the listing agent. If you're representing somebody else at the open house, then they should have done all that stuff. Okay, yeah.
Well,
Even if they didn't do it.
If they didn't do it, your job is to still represent that home the best you possibly can. But I'm assuming all you guys are going to be enormously successful, and I'm trying to help you for your own listings. Okay? Okay. So you've got the price set, you've got you've staging, non-staging, whatever degree of staging. Your photographer has come and photographed the house. You're getting ready then to go on the MLS. So you go to the MLS listing input form and you type in everything. If you have a transaction coordinator, they type in everything. You select the photographs that you're going to use on the MLS, and all of that then is done let's assume that you get your MLS, you've got all your photography, you got your brochures, you got your flyers. So you're ready to go. You put it on the MLS on a Wednesday or Thursday, and your first open house is Saturday. Okay, so that's when it hits the market and everybody is aware of what's coming up. Now, there's another thing that you do before Saturday morning, and that is Sheila for free prints out these flyers for you about the house.
Now, I have to say, I normally would have Greg's face on this, but I switched companies lately. I wanted my information on that to be first.
Oh, you're more important than I am. Okay, I get it.
But I did with Josh Peck, you guys may know him because he's a pretty new agent.
Yeah, he was in this class.
Oh, Greg's face is usually on his.
Okay. So you're going to go knock doors around the neighborhood on Friday afternoon and evening. Okay. And let me give you the questions that I use, which guarantees that people are going to talk to you.
While you're setting that up, you can post it too on your social media that you're.
Oh, yes. Of course.
You know, just, you can post it out there. You don't, and I don't know the legalities of how you're supposed to say it, but you don't have, I mean, you don't have to have the house listed for you to be able to post that you're doing it.
Exactly. You can post the home that you're holding open, regardless of who the agent is. I'm sorry, I forget those things because my transaction coordinator does that for me. And they post on my Facebook, the house. I say, hey, here's a home that I'm the agent for the seller. Come by on Saturday. You'll love it. That kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you. I forget that because Jen does it for me. Yeah. But yes, I am. Well, it also cost me $350 a listing. But I'm the kind of guy that I don't mind the contracts, but if I'm doing multiple deals, I have a hard time keeping track of where I am in a particular deal. And a good transaction coordinator will save your bacon. So that's why I use a TC. But again, when you're starting, and it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a very good thing to do all of the contracts for a couple of deals so that you know the flow. Okay, so that and there are checklists for that. You can get it from Hunter on, or from Dean on all of the contracts that you need on the buy and the sell side. And it's really not a bad idea to just do the first few yourself.
With the PC. And then after that, we can pay for them. But that way we can see what the progression is, what's
Mhm.
next, what the timeline is and how that works. So it's really important for us to take really good notes on
Yeah,
the first four.
yeah. And my TC was out of town on a deal I did last month. And when she got back, she saved me $5,000 because I had been a while since I'd done a contract. There's a place where you put in when the earnest money goes hard or if there's any additional earnest money. And you always put 0 in there and I put the $5,000 earnest money. So if that home hadn't sold, well, that's not right. If I could have been liable for $5,000 to my client is what happened on that. And so she caught that. So yeah, I mean, the home sold, but if it hadn't sold, the seller had the right to take the $5,000. That would have been on me. So yeah, even as experienced as I am, I blew it on that particular section because it was late at night. She wasn't available. I just did it and sent it off to the seller's agent. He probably looked at that and went, got him. Fortunately, the home sold. So, okay. So you're going to go around the neighborhood and you're going to carry this flyer with you and you'll introduce yourself and you're going to ask 2 questions. And this takes away all of the worry that the people don't want to talk to you or whatever else the case may be. So you say, number 1, I am holding an open house at such and such an address, might even be right next door. Okay. What do you like about this neighborhood? And people are always happy to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that just opens it way up.
Yeah. What do you like about this neighborhood? And then you get that, and then you say to them, this is a fantastic opportunity because you get to pick your new neighbors. Is there anybody in your family or circle of friends that you know that's looking for a home and would be interested in this home? And that works. I had a lady right next door to the house I was selling. I'm sorry. Yeah, pass those on. Yes, thank you. Turn them on the side with your face.
Oh,
I had a lady right next door to the house I'm selling, and she said, "Oh my gosh, let me call my daughter." And guess who bought the house? So there you go. So those are your 2 questions. What do you like about this neighborhood? What can I share with people who are going to be at the open house that you think is great about this neighborhood? And number 2, and I always use that line, you have a fantastic opportunity to pick your own neighbors. Do you know anybody in your friends or family that's would be interested in this home? There you go. And you have this in your hand. And so you just hand this to them and it should have the open house hours on it. Yeah, there should be an open house and it gives some pictures, gives a description, tells them about the open house. They're always willing to take it. Now, how many doors do you knock on? In the summertime, spring, summer, and fall. I'm sorry, what, Danza?
All of them.
All of them. In the spring, summer, and fall, you have the option of having an open house Friday night as well as Saturday. I never hold an open house on Friday night when it's going to be dark. Especially if you're a woman, you would never do that. So during the winter time, 4 or 5 months of the year, I only do Saturday open houses. Then I have the option when it's enough daylight to do it, have a Friday night open house. In any case, especially this time of year on Friday afternoon and evening, you're going around that neighborhood and knocking on the doors, asking those 2 questions and passing these out. How many do you do? It depends on the kind of neighborhood it is. When we sold Mongol's house, I passed out, I think it was somewhere between 150 and 200 of these flyers. That's the most I've ever done. Normally you're doing, I'd say 40 or 50 in the immediate neighborhoods. On the real expensive homes, then I hand them the brochure that I've had printed up as well. Those cost $3 or $4 a piece, so you're a little bit careful. Yeah.
Brochure in particular, this description here says 3-car garage, and this note right here says 2-car.
Okay, that's the agent. That's the agent's fault.
send it to the agent too.
That's the agent's fault.
He was just doing all of it. It was Clay's listing. You guys know Clay?
You do.
That was Clay's listing.
He's on Clay's team.
Josh was just, he wasn't quite on the scene. I don't know if he's doing it now or not. He just knows when. So he was doing that.
Okay. You're now prepared for the open house. It's Saturday morning. I go get my balloons. Why do I like balloons? Because they wave in the air and it catches attention. But there are other things you can use. There's flags. I've seen some of the newer stands that have a deal right here, and then you put a little flag in it, So there's all kinds of different ways you can do to attract attention. I just like to have something that attracts attention. You don't have to. The very first time I did balloons, I was with Colleen and I opened the back of my SUV and they all went up in the air.
I'm sure she was thrilled.
You learn real quick how to deal with these balloons. If you go to Zurcher's and you're doing two colors, have them put one color in one back and another color in the other back. And do it that way. Balloons are a pain. You don't have to do it if you don't want. I just like to. And it, doesn't cost much and it's an attention grabber, especially if you're on a busy intersection where there's more than one realtor open house sign. So, let them see yours. Okay.
Well, the signs, we want to talk about where.
Yes. So I'm to Saturday morning now. So if your open house starts at 11, you probably picked up your balloons at 9 o'clock. Attach them to the signs either in your car as you go. You have ahead of time decided where you're going to put the signs and how many you're going to put out. So it's not like Saturday morning, oh, gee, where should I put these? You've already scoped that neighborhood and decided where you're putting out. And the fewest I've ever put out is 6 signs, and the most I've ever put out is 16 signs. Okay. So you can decide traffic flow, how am I going to direct people to the house? Whatever it is, you've already made that decision. So you know where you're putting them. So it doesn't take all that long in the sense of you're not trying to decide while you're driving around. Okay. So if my open house is at 11, by 10:30, I have all the signs out and I'm at the house. I open the house, I turn on all the lights, I open the curtains, the drape, whatever I'm doing to make that home light and bright so that a few minutes before 11 o'clock, I'm ready for the first people to come in. That's part of building your confidence as well, that you're not chasing around at the last minute, trying to figure out where you're going to put signs or whatever you're going to do. You are prepared. Okay. So people you put out your little, please come in, because I found that sometimes if I'm in the back of the house working with one group of people, other people will stand at the door and ring the doorbell and knock, waiting for me to come answer it. So I always use that little sign. Welcome, please come in. Just put it by the front door, make sure the door is unlocked. Okay.
The thing I've noticed is that you're going around. I mean, in some of these places, they'll have a sign out that says open house.
Uh-huh.
It's not really clear which door it is, because it's like a townhome or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you walk up and you're like,
Knocking on the neighbor's house is still in bed Saturday morning.
you don't want to walk in.
Oh, the other thing, of course, is if it's your listing, you put the lockbox on the house a couple days ahead. Okay. All right. So people start coming in. What do you do? Yeah, underneath your yard sign with the balloons on it. And again, if it's not your listing, if you're doing it for somebody else, you're using their signs. And again, what I like to do is your yard sign is generally sitting on the yard on this side of the sidewalk. So to make sure people know what this open house, I'll put one right out on the curb so that they don't mess up. But people are pretty smart. They'll,
Please come in.
if there's a sign in the yard, they'll figure it out too. I don't know.
Right. Just generally, even if they know that that's the house, it's really awkward for people to just walk in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a welcome to walk in.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, sorry, in the box I didn't bring, I have booty boxes. I have one that's, here's the ones and here's the used ones. I like doing that because they get mixed up, D'Angelo. I'll leave it open a crack usually, just so they feel comfortable walking in. Okay,
This is a good thing. A lot of people don't do that and
Yeah.
Greg does that. What it says when you walk in a house is that the owners of this house care about this house. And whether it's Greg caring about the house or the owners caring about the house, it sends a message that, you know, this house has been cared for.
yeah. And that as I represent this home, I care. I don't want the house to get dirty. I don't want my sellers to come back and see that I've allowed people to track mud or whatever through the house. And people are willing to do it. It's also a good idea to just have a little folding chair like one of these sitting by those, because a lot of people have a hard time bending over and putting the booties on. So have a little chair for them to do that. Say what?
Big enough booties. I wear a size 13.5.
Oh,
A lot of people don't have big enough booties.
Yeah.
Some of the parade of homes, about half the homes I went to, their booties wouldn't fit me. I'm like,
Yeah.
gotta tear these things to get them.
Yeah.
on.
you have to take your own.
Go on Amazon. The ones that they have over at Ucore are worthless. They're as thin as tissue paper. Just go on Amazon. I like the ones that, I don't know if it says industrial, but something like that. And they're much thicker and larger.
Wash them, right?
Yes, you can wash them. The other thing is if people prefer to just take their shoes off, that's fine too. Just go through in their stocking feet. That's fine too.
I just thought of my kids when they come in. Their socks are dirty.
Okay, where are you going to be in your open house?
Kitchen.
Okay, that's a good point. You want to be, if you're not working with someone else or talking to someone else, you want to be where you can see when the people come in, but you don't want to be necessarily the first thing they see. Because what you have done with the home is you've decided where the AHA view is. And this is a broken record, but the brochure I was going to show you, when you walked into the home, the first thing you see is a lovely ascending staircase and a view of the valley. And if you're standing right there, they miss that moment. So find a place kind of out, at least the direct line of sight and the peripheral area, but stand back somewhere and let people come in and experience that moment if the home you're showing has that kind of a moment. Okay. So they come in, they've done that. You welcome them. My name is Greg. They get names from them. You say, how did you find us? I followed the open house signs. I saw it on Zillow. I saw it on the MLS, whatever. I like to know that. And I always love it when they say, well, we drive around, we saw your signs. You know, that works too. But you ask them, how did you find us? How did you find a home? And then, are you working with an agent? Okay, you've got that out of the way. Then now this is just the way I do it. I prefer to say, you know what? I don't hover. Here is a description. Well, actually, what I print out is I go to the MLS itself and just print out that sheet. You have the option of full report agent, full report client. Do the client full report. I print that means that if it's my list, that's extra buyers. If it's my listing, I'll do the full report because it has my name on it. If I'm doing it for someone else, just do the client full report. And okay, anyway, I print that out and I have that here and I hand that to them. The reason I use that necessarily versus this is because it has all the square footages and everything on it, number of bedrooms. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's more detailed. And I say, let me give you this information about the home.
That is imported in from the.
From the MLS. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, like something similar.
Yeah. Yeah. You can use those. I'm not saying you wouldn't. I just really like to have the MLS deal where it, breaks it all down even further, but
Yeah, the MLS sheet is more informational, less pretty.
right.
And it's, it's not gonna.
And Sheila's going to hand them this sheet anyway. Because the first thing she talks about, she turns it over and says, here's the mortgage. I mean, what's the very first question anybody asks you? What's the rate? So, but again, I'm getting into the weeds here. You can do it any way that's comfortable for you.
Then you ask them to sign in too, right?
Sometimes. When I first started an open house, I had everybody sign in, and I find there are a lot of people who are reluctant to do that. I have developed kind of a sixth sense as to who I feel is really interested, who I could pick up as an unrepresented buyer or unrepresented seller. And so I keep this with me, and if it's somebody that I really want to follow up with, I'll hand them this and say, would you give me your information? And, by then we've talked enough that I know they're serious and you know that I'm serious. Now, there's another side to that coin. You can always say, the seller has asked me to have people sign in so that they can get an idea as to how many people come to the open house and, get your thoughts and comments. It's very easy and people will respond to that. Sure, I'll sign in. So I find that in the upper end homes, I prefer to not have a sign-in sheet because I want people to, I don't write it down. When I ask them for information, I hand them this and have them write it down. And then I make sure I can read it. But, I engage them in the process. A sign-in sheet, they kind of do it and then, okay, and then they're off. And then I've got to go back and who was that? And were they really interested or, whatever. It's just a matter of experience, but you should also ask your seller what they want. If they want everybody to sign in, because part of the post deal, which we're going to get to, is reporting back to the seller. So that's another way to do it. Okay. People have come through the house. You've made sure that any prescription drugs or jewelry are locked away, because there are people who come to open houses to steal, believe it or not. Yeah. There you go. So you're very careful about all of that. You presented a professional, positive approach. You know the answers to the school district, to the neighborhood, to the you're justified the pricing if you need to on value of the home, et cetera, et cetera. And the age of the HVAC and water heater and the roof. Okay, you're going to be asked that. I guarantee you know the age of those items. Have it right on the tip of your tongue.
So
Yeah, you should have gotten all of this out of your seller disclosure. Although some people don't fill out the seller disclosures until later, but I always have them do it first. But
Too, especially when you're doing somebody else's open house.
yeah,
You're not always gonna know all this stuff.
yeah,
But I would say to the agent, can you be on standby for me so that if I have somebody that asks, I can find out? Because you'll learn very quickly in this business, you're never gonna know everything.
everything.
If you wait till you know everything about everything, you are never gonna do business.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't feel bad if you don't know the answer. But do feel bad if you're not willing to get the answer. For them.
Yeah, and people are impressed that you can do that.
I've been sitting with agents that they go, oh, no, I don't know. Would I want to hire that agent? I'm not
No.
gonna hire that agent. If you don't know, find out.
You say, I don't know, but let me check. Now, what I do, and I'm sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
What I do is I don't have the agent online. I have the seller, the owner online. Especially in my own listings. Maybe it's uncomfortable
Yeah.
if you're doing it for somebody else. Okay. On my own list, we're back now. You got your own listing. I always ask the seller, I say, okay, during the 2 or 3 hours I have this open house and somebody's asked me a question I can't answer, I want to be able to call you and get that answer immediately. So I want you to be available. And they're happy to do that. But I'll give you an example. This house in Benjamin, it had everything was upscale, Wolf and Sub-Zero appliances, everything else. The island in the house was, I remember my seller telling me there was something special about it, but so somebody comes through and they asked me about the island on the house. So because it's it's unusual, the product is unusual. So I called him and he said, oh, wow. He says, that we imported that from Italy. And that surface is scratch proof. You can take a knife and go, and it can't scratch it. I didn't try that, but nevertheless, so I could say to the person going to the house, you know what, that is called, I can't remember, that's imported from Italy. And here are the benefits of it. That's impressive. That's impressive. Also on this particular home, the basement was unfinished, but they had the architectural renderings, drawings for how they were going to finish it. And so I made sure that I had those on hand. So if someone was wondering, well, how would you finish the basement? You roll it out and show, well, this is what the current owners, had they finished the basement, would have done. So, all those things, every little thing. I hope I'm not laying too much on you here, but at least it's not the 3-page checklist that guy had. But every bit of information that you can glean and have at your fingertips or the ability to find out quickly just makes you look more professional. And again, it's not, like I said, open houses are not expensive, but they're time consuming to prepare, hold it, and do it after. So you just be prepared to follow these steps I'm giving you, and you'll be successful, I guarantee you.
Usually too, in the kitchen, have some little water bottles and like a bowl of chocolates or a bowl of something that's not gonna be messy
Right.
necessarily. And people usually circle back to the kitchen, so, but you do have to kind of keep track of people, just like Greg was talking about people selling or stealing stuff. You gotta know where the people are in the house, even though you're not hovering over them, you kind of check on them, ask
Yeah.
them questions or.
If somebody's spending way too long in the basement, I'll go down and see what's going on. Let me tell you another experience that really changed my way of doing it as well. Talk about hovering. I'm a friendly guy. I like to talk to people, find out if we have some connection, whatever the case may be. I don't have a problem talking to anybody. So in a home in Bluffdale, $1.2 million home in Bluffdale, the owner, and I don't know if this is legal or not, but she had cameras and microphones, so she would love to sit during the open house and just hear what people had to say. Okay, so these people went down to the basement, and the husband says to the wife, after I'd greeted him and chatted with him for a while, we didn't come here to talk, we came here to look at the home. Ooh, that was on me. So be careful with that. I choose to be a little less friendly and less, or not for less friendly, but chat less until I know they're really interested, and then we'll have a conversation. But don't take away their time up front by trying to find out too much information or being too friendly. It'll happen naturally, organically, as you let it. Okay.
And besides the fact you never know when cameras are in the house.
Yeah, that's true. Hidden.
Right? So just be very careful with what you say and what you talk about and be super positive because, you don't want to go in there, oh man, look at this. This is disgusting. And
Yeah.
have them on camera.
He used to do home inspections. And I had a client talking about how ugly the homeowners were on the pictures on the wall. And I had to walk up and go. So.
Yeah.
So then from that day forward, I would meet my client at the sidewalk and I would say, watch what you say.
Yeah.
The cameras, microphones, whatever.
Wow.
Then we will come out here.
Oh, Bill.
Talk on the street,
Yeah.
talk about anything.
Very smart.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so what are some, if you sense that people are interested, what are some conversation openers you can have? Some things that, are you looking for a home in this neighborhood and in this price range? Okay, I'm now helping you to deal with an unrepresented buyer. They go through the house and they say, this just isn't quite for us. Thank you, you say, and you don't let them walk out the door. Then you say, are you looking for a home in this price range and maybe even in this neighborhood? What other homes have you seen that you liked? You just find ways to engage them. What are the positive things you feel about this house, and what are some of the things that you wish it had to make it your dream home? I mean,
And you can see that all of those questions that Greg asked are not yes or no questions.
yeah,
Right? He's
Yeah.
saying what? And he's asking to get them engaged and to get them talking. Those are awesome. He's really good at asking those kind of questions to get people talking.
so those are the kind of things. And then the people who are really serious and that you've made a connection with, you're going to know. It'll rise to the surface. Okay, so the open house is over. Never, ever end early. I could tell you story after story of the people that come as I'm closing up the house 5 minutes after the 2 o'clock hour. Never close early, even if nobody came. Because it's that, what's the name of that book? One extra step or something. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book by that name that, that extra little thing that you do brings the reward. And this is the case. Even if you're hungry or want to go get your signs or whatever the case may be, always make sure that that house is open right up to the hour that you said was going to be. And boy, I know a case of another agent in this brokerage who closed early and the seller came by. Seller drove by and saw that, ouch, you never want to be in that position. Okay, so you've closed up the house, you've made sure, you've asked the owner, the seller, do you want me to leave the lights on or turn them off? You make sure the doors are locked, you put your key back in the Supra, and you're ready to go pick up your signs. Now, what I do is before I even close up the house, is if I haven't done a sign-in sheet, then I write down individuals, groups, couples, and I just do a little check on what they were. And then I can talk to my clients and say, okay, I had individuals come through, I had 5, I had family groups, I had 6 or 7 of those, and couples, which I love. Couples are my favorite. Had couples come through, I had, 4 of those or 5 of those. And then I report those statistics back to my seller. You want to do this. Now, the way you do this is if you're representing an agent, you report it to the agent, and then the agent reports it back to the seller. You're not talking to the seller directly. Okay. Very important, because that lets the seller know how engaged you are, how detailed you are. And then you report in the statistics how many people you think might be interested in buying that home that you're listing. You don't tell them about your unrepresented buyers or sellers that you picked up. Oh, I got so many clients today, thank you, but nobody's interested in your house. No. You just let them know how many people showed a genuine interest. And this is where, if someone's showing a genuine interest and they're represented by somebody else, but they say, I'm going to come back with my agent or whatever the case may be, you have found out who that agent is, and you're going to make a call as well to that agent just to say, hey, the Jones came through the house I was showing today. They're really, really interested. Here's the MLS number. You might want to follow up with them. Okay, so I've reported to my seller. Sometimes I'll do it in the car while I'm picking up signs, but regardless, within an hour after that open house is over, I've made a report back to the seller or to the agent if you're doing it for another agent. Okay. Now, sometimes I fall down on this. I'm going to tell you right now, and I shouldn't. Most of the time I do it, but you've got to be, if someone has said to you, you picked up an unrepresented buyer, yeah, this house just isn't for us because we have 7 kids and there's only 3 bedrooms, or, we want a view. This isn't the school district we want to, or this is elementary school or middle school or high school isn't the one we want our kids to go to. Whatever the reason is, they don't want that house, but you've come to an agreement that you're going to help them find a house. Then you want to, with that afternoon, go on the MLS and find 3 homes that meet their criteria, and you send that to them. Okay. Now, you can do it via text. I like to just use the button on the MLS that automatically sends it. I always make sure, if it's a buyer, that I do the client full report so they don't see who the other agent is. Okay, and I send it. If you're going to do that, you need to tell the people you will receive an email from utahrealestate.com. When you open it, you'll see that it's from me, but don't just, trash it. I'm sending you that. It comes through the MLS.
Can you text through the MLS or no?
Yes. I honestly don't do it, so I've forgotten how. The reason I prefer to do it from the MLS is for the photographs. If I text it, then you're not gonna get all the photographs. So, up to you. There's a way to do that and ask Hunter. I know Colleen prefers to text because then you get an answer, but I follow up with a phone call, so it's the same difference. The reason I use that MLS deal is, do you know where that is? Let me show you how to do it. If you jump on the MLS, would you? And you reminded me of something I just saw.
And you've,
Okay, when you guys are preparing for the open house, go to stats as well and get all the details that you want. You know, be an expert in the market. They've already done it for you. Therefore, now I want you to go to a search. Let's do a search. Do a full. Let's do an MLS number. Never mind. Don't do the full. Let's do what's the MLS on this one. Yeah, that's okay. What's the MLS number? Just pull up anyone. Okay, it doesn't matter. Just pull anything up. Okay, okay. I should remember my own, but I don't. Okay, go to send listing. Okay, you got it? That's a commercial? Why does that say send commercial listing?
oh, that's why, because it is, because I was looking at commercial property. That's the one.
Okay, just go to search. Back to search, pick up any house. Then just go full. Just click on that, on the red. Right there on the,
We want to view results.
yeah,
No, it's
exactly.
clicking this one.
And just grab that one. Okay.
Send it.
Now, can you guys all see this? Okay. So this is a little bit awkward, but the only way you can get rid of the agent information that you don't want is you have to copy that MLS number, MLS.
And then
Go back and put it in.
in here, right?
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's see. Click on that down arrow. See where it says agent full report? Go down to client full report. Click that. What's happened is the other agent's information is gone.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So when you send that to them, it's from you. It's not from the other agent. Got it? Okay.
Got it.
Now,
And then you would,
now go to
Send
send listing and you put in their email. You always click send me a copy. Okay, so whatever. And then yeah, you're gonna send this to yourself, so you'll see it works. Okay. Send me a copy. So you're gonna get 2 copies. Anyway, email subject I always put the address of the house so that I remember what it is, but you could put a home you might be interested in, something like that. Put in, yeah, just anything you want. Yeah, anything you want. Yeah, here's a home that might meet your criteria, something, anything. And then you just click send. And you'll have that in your computer in a minute. I'm happy to walk through that with you if any of you that have your laptops, if it's confusing. She does it. Oh, when I'm gonna print one? Okay, okay, so I like to print for the people that want more information, go back to what we just did. Did you get it?
I haven't updated yet.
Refresh, and let's see if it's there. Okay,
Right there.
okay, very good. Okay, open it up. Okay, just
And this
click
is
on
where
it.
you're calling. it.
There's your
Okay,
listing.
Go ahead and click on
But
that.
what I do is when I print out the client only information deal unless I'm the agent.
You
Okay,
Print,
I have a number of those sheets. I print that MLS. It looks like this, except doesn't have anything on the back and it has all the square footage of everything, number of floors, all that stuff.
so when you're doing that, you're printing out the MLS?
Mhm. Not with my face. With my face, Colleen's given those to me. Colleen, Sheila,
Actually just print that on regular paper
yeah,
and brings that to the open house, right? The
right.
MLS sheet.
Go back to the,
Take around to give to people.
in the neighborhood,
For you.
right.
So you just send me your contact info and the MLS number and I will have them done for you. And
How do you do that though, through Canvas or you,
I have
or
a
Canvas, sorry.
She gives them to you.
the mark guy that I use does them for me. We just have a template to the market side does them, and it, all the info just pulls into the MLS.
Okay. Yeah, Zoe, I got you. Thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay. So you have followed up. Yeah. Okay, pick any of them. Open it up. Yeah, you have to repeat the MLS number, unfortunately.
So you can't just click.
You,
on
you,
it,
if
so
you click on this, it doesn't give you the option to do the client full report or the agent full report. So you have to put it in the search the MLS.
Yeah, right. No, but
You're like 6.8.
yeah, but honestly, like that's why I left.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, now here you go. Yeah, now you go down to the client full report.
Cool.
Because when you're set, if you've got
I don't want.
an
that.
unrepresented buyer, even though it was your open house, you're listening to everything else, and they're not interested in that house, but you're gonna send them other stuff. You don't want them to have the other agent's information. It all comes back
Yeah.
through you.
Okay.
So that's why you do that. And then all you do is click on the send button. And then, I can't see it from here. And then you enter their email, make sure you're getting a copy and then just whatever. And then, so in the message, you may want to say, you mentioned that you wanted a home in, Saratoga Springs. Here, this home may fit your criteria, or
This one
I'll
has
put,
one.
hey, you were looking for a 6-bedroom. Here's one in Lehigh, here's one in Marion Fork, here's one in
Okay.
Highland, whatever the
Cool.
case may be.
I
I
was
try,
trying to
see,
figure out how to get rid of the agent's information. on the-
exactly. Yeah, that's how you do
side,
it. So you
'cause-
always send them 2 to 3 houses. I don't like to send them just one. I always send them 2 or 3. Because then there's really something to talk about. Well, what did you think of this one versus that one versus this one?
or to
That kind of
take a
thing.
look at
Yeah,
more
exactly.
specifically, or-
Exactly. Now, there is a way to send that to your phone and then you send it as a text. I don't know how to do it because I don't
Probably
like
just,
doing it.
Email it to yourself.
Yeah,
and then
send
copy
it
and
that
paste
way.
it.
But I don't like doing it that way because they don't get all the photographs.
Do they not from the link?
No, you won't get everything.
Oh, okay.
Or if you do, it's really hard to see.
Fair.
Maybe they fix it where you
Yeah,
get them,
it's
but
really tiny.
I'd rather they see it. I know that if I send it directly from the MLS versus as a text, even if they're looking at their phone, all the photographs are available.
Oh, okay.
That's
Fair
why,
enough.
that's why I prefer to do that.
Fair enough.
Now, I know there are other agents who like to do as a text because it demands a response, they think, which it does. But I'm gonna call them anyway, so what difference does it make?
That's a great point.
Yeah. Okay. So now what you're doing is you have those people who you think are, okay, now that's the unrepresented buyer. Let's talk about the unrepresented seller follow-up, and then I'll give you a story and we'll end. Okay, how do you follow up with an unrepresented seller? You're not going to send them homes to look at. They want to sell their home, right?
Send them numbers.
Yeah. The way you follow up with unrepresented seller is very simple. If you haven't done it at the open house, you pick up the phone, you do it, and you say, I would like to schedule an appointment with you. I need to see your home. Okay. So that we can talk about the important things we need to do with your home, such as staging or most important pricing. I'll drive to the neighborhood. I need to see your home and we'll sit down and I would like to explain to you my marketing program. They're not going to say no to that. They want to hear your marketing program because you're going to market the house. And that's a whole nother class But you have your binder, you have your presentation, your show and tell, and that's how you follow up with them. You set an appointment.
Sorry. When you're doing that, are you're putting together somewhat of a CMA and an idea. of
Right,
what-
correct. Yeah,
This is why.
yeah. Yeah, there's, Ask Hunter, the teams here all have them. I use Lee Stearns quite a bit, a lot of hers. And you're not there to flip pages. Basically, you want to highlight, here's who I am. Here's who my brokerage is. Keller Williams, the number one in the United States, blah, blah, blah. And because of that, as soon as your home goes on MLS, it's going to go to literally dozens. It's going to go to every real estate site in the United States and the world. And that's true. That's what they do for you upstairs. I mean, so I like to have, one of my sheets has the Zillow logo, the Redfin, the real estate, all of that. Anyway, we got a dozen of those, and it's going to go on this website and every other important real estate website in the world. And that's part of our $15,000 a year that they'll do that for you. Okay? Sheila.
Okay, so you get these leads from your open house. What should they be doing with these leads if these people are not quite ready? They're just looking for it.
Okay.
Put them in your.
SOI. SOI, and you do the tab for what kind of follow-up you're going to do. Now, again, Sheila is so good. If the issue is not the home, but it's the financing, then Sheila's going to carry that ball for you. He'll carry that water. But, if it's anything related to the real estate specifically at that time, but if it's the financing and they like the house that you showed, then hopefully they'll be long gone before they're ready. But at least you have an idea as to what they want. Yeah.
Because sometimes people are just not ready, they just don't, for whatever reason, they're just not ready. Well, if you follow up with them, I had 2 clients this year that I followed up with, and I've been following up with these guys for probably 2 years. And, one, maybe even 3. And finally they decided they're ready to go. And I met with them, and I will always take them back to the agent where I got the lead. Okay, so I say to them, well, Lisa's a great, or shouldn't I use her name? Somebody's a great agent, and she'll be, she's the one that went door knocking. She had been door knocking. She's the one that was door knocking. She met you. Do you remember her? Yeah, I don't know. She hasn't followed up at all. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna use our agent that we have a friend. And there was nothing I could do to push them back to her.
Yeah.
So it's a very stark between follow up and
Yeah.
not follow up.
Yeah.
I had to have it twice.
I've got I sold a house for $1,150,000, closed last month or the end of September, I guess, in Highland. Out of that, one of the leads that I got was people who live in Southern California. When she retires next year, he's retired. When she retires, they're moving up here. So every month they hear from me, one way or another, they're going to hear from me. So, yeah. I had got another lead out of that for a $2 million house. I was convinced I got it. And the guy finally confessed to me that his sister's or his wife's uncle is a real estate agent in St. George. They're going to use him. And I said, St. George, I said, my area of expertise is Utah Valley and Salt Lake Valley. Why would you use somebody from St. George? He told me the guy's name. I looked him up and he goes, it's just my wife's uncle. So nothing you can do. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I did follow up with that guy several times. He should have confessed that to me at the start, but he didn't. Anyway. Okay, final story. And I can give you a bunch. Here's the benefit of an open house. I was holding an open house in Provo. Was during the crazy time. I think we had 33 written offers. It's absolutely nuts. But in the process of that, I chatted with a guy who came through who was looking for a home for his daughter. And so we talked. Blair True is his name. We talked for a while. Anyway, afterwards, I did follow up. I had him write down his name and stuff because he was seriously looking for a home. And so I called him, and he said, the truth is, my daughter's fine where she is, but I was so impressed with your presentation that what I want to do is sell my house. And he said, I've got another agent that I've dealt with in the past who has sold other real estate for me. And so I'm asking both of you to make me a presentation, and I'll choose who I'm going to use. Now you say, oh, geez, if he dealt with that guy, forget it. But nevertheless, I put my book together. I went over to his house, beautiful home, and went through it. And then I followed up with him the next day, and I said, well, what have you decided? And he said, I'm going to use you. So listed the house, a lot of traffic. And this couple comes through who they live they were living in Draper, and she teaches dance at BYU. And they're looking just to get closer to campus because he can work from anywhere. And so they came into the house and chatted just for a minute. And I said, conversation was, how did you find it? Where are you living now? Well, I'm a dance teacher and blah, blah. I said, oh my gosh, go down to the basement. Because Blair, two of his kids are professional ballroom dancers. And so in the basement, they had the mirrors around, the hardwood floor. I mean, everything where they trained for their ballroom dancing. Well, that's all it took, and she's ready to go. Okay. So I sold Blair's house, representing the seller. I sold the house to the Jexes. Okay. I represented them as the buyer, the house. So now calling out on that, but we got double dipped, seller and buyer. Okay. Now the Jex's mother is getting old, and she needs to move out of her home in Cottonwood Heights, in the most desirable neighborhood you can imagine. That home, it took about 1 minute to sell it. And so now we've sold mom's house, but mom needs to get a new house, and she wants to be in a 55 plus community. So we sold the new house to mom. So out of that deal, because the guy was impressed with my presentation at the home I was marketing, I was representing the seller on, and we had a competition, but I got that. So there's house number 1, sell his house. Number 2, sell his house to the people that bought it. And number 3, sell mom's house and sell a house. Oh, and I forgot, we sold the house of the people that bought it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deals out of that, out of an open house. So exactly. Is it worth it? Yeah, I'd do that any day of the week. And then we could talk about the Rock family, for heaven's sakes. Oh my gosh, and I'm still now selling them a commercial property. 4 houses and now a commercial property. 4 new houses they bought, 1 sold, 2 sold, 4 new houses and now a commercial property.
That was my.
Sheila, she doesn't look up, but she aged 10 years with that deal. She didn't. She still looks 29, but that one was a killer. But that's a business we're in, right? So there you go.
Bunch of open houses this last weekend on houses that were like 500,000, 600,000.
Yeah.
There was nobody there, and all the realtors were telling me that they had not even seen anybody yet that day, and this was getting towards the end. Are these more expensive homes? The open houses, are they more popular, or like, do more people show up to those?
I think we probably have different opinions on it. What's your opinion, Greg?
Okay, let me just think. The last 4 I sold in September, October. 755. 1,150,000. 530 that we talked about. And 2 million. So I mean, that's the gamut right there. Those 4 homes in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And
The way the market has been, the
so
way I've seen it, sorry, were you done?
I'm just gonna say, I think in every case, where I was the listing agent on 2 of those, it was, I was very busy on the $1.15 million house in Highland. I had a steady stream of people. I keep saying 1.15, but it's 1,250,000. I had, and this is another little tip, have a good appraiser in your back pocket. I had him come and appraise the house because nothing had sold in the neighborhood in a long time. So he appraised it at 1,350,000. And I said to my clients, let's list it at 1,250,000. And 8 days later, the house was under contract. So now,
I personally tend
Yeah.
to pick up more leads at a range up to like 450. Because,
meaning the mortgage at 450, the house is 556.
well, up to maybe 500 because
Okay,
you've got anything over that, to me, the buyers are a little more savvy, right? It's probably their second home. They probably already have a lender because they're already, know what they're doing. They already have a real estate agent. And so I tend to see more people come in the first time home buyer range and more people that don't have agents and have never talked to a lender because they just don't know what they're doing. The first thing they're gonna do is go look at a house, right? So, I mean, for me, those are the open houses that are most beneficial to me because I pick up first time home buyers, especially with the way the market has been right now. You get people over, $1 million, they don't really care what the rate is because they have plenty of
they
money,
have cash.
right?
Yeah, both of those homes were cash.
They don't know that the rates used to be 3%. And so they don't care. As long as they can afford it, they want to get into it. The mid-range of the people that have to sell their first time home or sell a house that's at a 3% mortgage rate and buy a new house that they're supposedly going to upgrade, but their mortgage doubles for a small upgrade. Those are the people that haven't really been buying and selling as much, right? And so probably the price point where you were is kind of in that range, right?
Like
Where
6 to 8.
6 to
kinda.
8, exactly. Where that's maybe a second home spot and people are just holding on to that first home as long as they can because that interest rate is so good and to go to that next spot is super expensive, right? So I mean, that's kind of just what I've seen as I've been working with people and in the open houses. And you may find something totally different, right? But my most successful open houses are in the first time home buyer range. And maybe that's just because I feel super comfortable talking to first time home buyers and I don't know, but I mean, Greg gets a ton of deals coming from the million plus too, so. But I feel like that range is the range that is the slowest to turn right now.
Yeah, I just got paid.
Yay!
It was also really cold and rainy.
Oh, yeah, that,
I had 2 comments on that and then we can end here. One is, yes, we are currently suffering from what's called the locked-in effect. People are locked in. 60% of the mortgages in Utah are 4% or less. So unless people have a compelling need to move, they're going to look twice at paying 6.5% versus the 2.75% mortgage they have. Makes a big difference in the payment, more than double at that rate. So yeah, and unless they have a compelling need to move, if they have to upsize or downsize, or they're being transferred, or they're moving into the state, yeah, I understand that. That's the reality. I don't think anybody in this brokerage did as well in 2024 as they did 2023. Not to say you're not making a great living, but you know, the point is that's the market that we're in. Funny thing is that so many people got their license and came into this during the heyday when it looked like all you had to do was put up a sign and you got paid, you know. And it was kind of like that actually in a lot of things, but I don't know. Anyway, you'll find some specialties too. I don't do commercial necessarily, but I do residence and land. Land deals are wonderful. They take a long time. I got one now, this big one I've been working on for 2 years. We actually were ready to go under contract on a $7 million piece of property in Provo. And at the last minute, the seller didn't sign because he decided when he saw what my client was going to do with the property, that he'd take it back and do it himself. So, you know, you run into, so I'll be headed down to city offices in Spanish Fort to check some zoning on another property I found for them. But the point is that it's nice to have some other deals. Just, I'll tell you, land deals, you're going to get a big payday at some point in time if it happens, but they take forever. But
You have to disclose you don't have to disclose that, right? To the seller? What you're gonna do, what your plans are with the land? I'm just.
now the other agent did.
That from happening.
The agent representing the seller did.
Oh,
And
told you what they were
yeah, he knew what we were doing because, you know, we had shared with him, because he was it was in Payson and, he came to some of the meetings we had with the planners and stuff, you know,
doing.
so,
Screwed up everybody's paycheck,
yeah.
even his own.
Yeah, he screwed himself too.
So, let me ask you what you were just talking about with rates and stuff. This seems like a really good market for investors who want, if they
Mhm.
can, try to get into seller financing because they
Mhm.
want that low interest rate.
Mhm.
That being said, how much of a benefit is that to the seller, the current homeowner? I mean, I've heard about some of these deals where I was actually talking to an investor. He said, well, it's great because I can buy it, you know, at the 3.25%. And then I give them, but there wasn't really how much.
Okay, first of all, if it's a VA loan, it's assumable, right? The rate is assumable. So you check that out. It's a VA loan and FHA, which are a lot of the loans. So if it's a 2.5% loan, the new buyer can assume it. So you want to check that to begin with. Now, seller financing. I recently did a seller financing deal. But it was on a very expensive home. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to present that properly to the agent, to the buyer's agent, what the seller financing, what they will do and what they won't do. Because I've found on seller financing, I get phone call. If I put seller financing on a home on the MLS, then I get phone calls from people representing investors. And almost invariably, they want to lowball the deal. So it's a challenge, but
I guess what I'm asking is, so let's say I'm selling a home, you wanna
yeah,
look to me for financing. What does that deal look like for me? You're gonna pay me some money up front. You're gonna make my monthly payment, and then at 5 years. we're
yeah,
gonna do up a-
yeah. That's exactly how it works.
Not
If
only
you're
gonna
not
make
just-
your monthly payment, you're gonna charge them a higher interest rate than what your interest rate is.
Exactly.
So you're gonna make money on the payment that they're making.
Right.
And the initial, money coming into the deal and then the payment coming out of the deal, is that a little more than what the loan was worth total? Or am I only making the money from the percentage rate, the higher interest rate?
No, okay. Here's the advantage of seller financing. You get the home sold. Here's the disadvantage of seller financing. You're locked into a price. In other words, when that balloon comes due in 3 years, which is I prefer to do, comes due in 3 years, and the people exercise the option and buy the house. If the house has gone up $100,000 in those 3 years, then the seller doesn't get the advantage of that. Okay.
The offset, that's what I'm asking, is the offset that you're getting Because you're coming in saying, I'm gonna give you $10,000 now.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Every
It's
month,
okay.
and then at the end.
No, no, you're never do it. They have to come in with enough money up front. They gotta come in with at least, okay, this is just me. They gotta come in with at least 25%
Well,
up front.
just a figure.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
so you come in.
Okay,
Percentage, so we'll work with percentage. I'm gonna come in with 25%.
Right.
up front. Then I'm going to assume your loan. I'm going to take those monthly payments and I'm gonna pay you an interest above and beyond that. And then at the end, call it a 3-year, we're going to pay off the balance of that. Is that? so that's
Refinance.
Pretty much what the, the sale of the home is worth. And then the only money that the person is making is that interest rate
Difference.
monthly?
Yeah.
Cause the,
Difference in the interest.
or are they getting a little more money in the front and the back and that little interest rate? Well,
no, they have,
I'm probably not asking that question
Okay.
correctly.
let's walk through it. Okay. Let's say it's $1 million.
Okay.
Okay, so you go into contract for $1 million. The people who are buying the house with seller financing come in with $250,000. So your seller has that right up front.
Question real quick,
Yeah.
just so I understand. So it's $1 million home.
Yeah,
They're coming in with 250,000, but the balance on the.
they owe,
loan is-
yeah, they owe $750,000 back to the seller. Okay, let's say the seller decides that his rate on the house is, 5%, he's gonna charge 6 or 7% to the buyer. Okay, so they pay that, and then the end, the seller gets the balance of his money when the buyer refinances the house or whatever he does. He gets the other $750,000 in the back end.
Okay, and what if they're assuming the loan then?
That's a totally different thing.
Totally different. Now, if you're talking FHA, which is not gonna be on $1 million house, but if they're assuming the loan, if they assume the loan, then the seller's, I mean, he's paid, he gets his money.
So he's getting paid out all at once.
Yeah, if they're assuming the loan, he gets paid out all at once. The loan holder pays the seller and then there's a new mortgage. Well, there's the same mortgage, at the same rate mortgage for the new buyer. Okay, he now has the seller isn't out of the money. He now there's a new mortgage now. And so the seller gets paid, but the seller the guy's gotten all of his money up front if somebody assumes the loan, right, Sheila?
Yeah, so the advantage on the seller financing is that if they default for any reason, you already have $250,000 of their money.
Yep.
And you still have half,
So.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Just like bank.
Right.
so, and then, so, yeah, you get the difference in the interest. Is what it is, until they're
Right.
paying your mortgage and you're getting a certain amount difference in this.
If somebody assumes your loan, it's the third party mortgage holder. Okay, they're gonna pay you. I mean, you sold the house, you get all the money, and the mortgage holder just has a new mortgagee, but it's the same
Right.
deal.
Financing, you just really have to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Because a mortgage can actually be called due if somebody else owns the house and you have a mortgage.
yep,
So technically, that mortgage can be called due on the seller. So if if the lender finds out that that loan has been transferred, I mean, that house has been transferred to somebody else. It doesn't happen often, but if loans start going into foreclosure and the economy starts having a hard time, lenders are gonna be going after whatever they can, and these seller financing deals.
I would not do,
Essentially a deal on sale clause.
yes,
So they're saying, well, wait a minute, you sold it.
And
So
now
we
their
want our
collateral
money.
is in someone else's name.
Okay.
Right? And here they still have the mortgage. And so the mortgage company, and so the buyers are like, I hope he makes his mortgage payment. Right? Cause if they don't, the seller doesn't make the mortgage payment, then they're for sure gonna check into things and find out that someone else owns the house. So you really, and I know they set it up right and they know how to set it up. You have to get with a title company that knows what the heck they're doing. Take a class on seller financing, which they have here.
and let Dean hold your hand the whole way through.
Well, can I tell you, the reason I'm asking this is because this almost came up. My neighbor was being relocated to Maryland. He's a professor and, he had put his house up for sale for about 45 days. Not with me. No, he didn't know I was interested, which told me I'm not doing a good enough job. What's going on? Anyway, and Dean had met, a guy at the U-Car class who was an investor, and he wanted to assume this guy's loan. Knew the guy, well, he had asked, me. Long story short, found out that he was at about 3.25%, 3.5%. And he was like, well, that's a good deal for me, because if I just take it at that percentage, and, you know, I'll pay him a little money up front, whatever he's got into the house, and then we'll do a balloon payment at the end of that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, where does the homeowner make money? He's
Yeah.
gotta make money. It's gotta be worth his time to go through all this crap, because he's not getting the balance up front. He's still holding this. It all fell apart because he had already signed a contract with a property management company to rent the house. So we couldn't do anything with that. Dean and I were in his office for 2.5 hours trying to figure out how we could make this work, and it didn't. But that's why I'm kind of like, okay, this is something I definitely need to learn.
Well, you're talking two different deals. You're talking seller financing, and we were talking about an assumable loan. Okay, so forget the assumable loan. That's a done deal. The house is sold. The guy's got all of his money up front, right? If it's an FHA or VA loan, an assumable loan. So that's different than seller financing.
But it was kind of a hybrid of both, it sounded like to me, because he didn't want to own the home. I mean, he wants to know that, you know, he's paying towards buying them, almost like a rent to own type thing.
Sounds like a lease to own.
Lease to
Yeah,
own thing.
yeah. That's another deal. That's another
My
deal.
brain was scrambled by the end of this. I was
Yeah.
like, holy, and Dean's like, oh, I'm gonna work with you on this, because I was even talking to Cameron, who's my productivity coach,
Yeah.
and he's like, I was like, so do we fill out a rep sheet? And he's like, or sorry, a buyer broker agreement? He's like, no. He goes, yeah, and then Dean goes, no, you fill out a single something contract. And I was like, I've never heard of that, and as Cameron's like, I've never even heard of that either.
Yeah. On a lease to own, there's another form that the title company has to submit. I don't remember the name of it. I ran into this once where for sure, the deed stays in the name of the seller until it's paid. Yeah, and that's a step that you have to take, right?
Wait, what?
The lease to own.
I'm trying to remember the name of the form. Dean could tell you, but
Oh, you don't get paid until the house sells after you leased it.
that's right. And who knows what it's gonna look like there. Could be, yeah, I mean, you
He was gonna.
have
he
to
was gonna
pay.
get The house, charge more for the rent, and capitalize on the appreciation and low interest rate down.
Yeah, right.
That's
Well-
really where he would, you know, looking long term. And I think he was thinking over 5 years for the loan payment. I'm like, I'm not okay with that. And my plan would be either.
Yeah.
So,
Well, all those things are, when, we don't deal with short sales now, but when we may end up dealing with them, that's a whole nother market as well, or another kind of transaction. So anyway, hopefully today you got some ideas, thoughts on how to,
Prevalent right now.
yeah, it's not.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate all your wisdom and.
You're welcome, guys. No problem. My pleasures. I wish you all enormous success. And if I can help you at all, let me know.
You
Thank you, Sheila.
go to this office.
Uh-huh. I do. Yeah.